Welcome, everyone, to our LinkedIn Live. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host and moderator today. I just want to welcome you all, talk a little bit about our topic, and then I'm going to introduce our guests. So today's topic, interesting one, is why life purpose is your most strategic asset in business. We're going to talk a little bit about purpose. We're going to talk about business. We're talking about leadership and how those things really kind of intersect and how they drive performance, how they drive really engagement inside companies. If you are watching us live here on LinkedIn, if you have a question or a comment, go ahead and leave it in the comments. We'll try to monitor those during the discussion, weave those in as we see them. We're also streaming on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, go over to LinkedIn to leave your comments. I'm not going to be watching the YouTube channel necessarily. However, if you're watching replays on really any platform, go ahead and leave questions and comments on the pages there. We'll watch those comments in the coming days and weeks and try to respond to those as well. So even if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave a comment, questions, and we'll catch those. So with all of that, let me introduce our guests. First up, I've got Patrice Tanaka. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's also an author. She's a business strategist. She's also the founder of Joyful Planet. And is a consultancy that builds purpose-driven individuals and organizations. Patrice, welcome to the program. Oh, you're on mute, I think, still.
There we go. Aloha, everyone. Thank you, Bruce. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. Next up, I've got Michael Glazer. He is a Tokyo-based organizational development consultant who helps leaders and large organizations bring purpose and values to life through leadership development and culture building. Michael, welcome to the program.
Hi, Bruce. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you both here. I'm excited about this conversation. You know, we cover all sorts of things around strategy and management and growth and exits and all these things, but we don't really talk, I think, enough about kind of purpose and kind of the underlying motivations, or kind of, we'll call it more the humanistic element of really what drives business and business performance. And why don't we just kind of start with grounding this a little bit and talking about what do we mean by purpose? Because I think we throw this term around a lot. I think it's out there in the media. Like there's lots of, YouTube videos of Simon Sinek kind of talking about these various things. But what do we each kind of mean by this? I think it would be kind of helpful to see, where we have new kind of nuances between the three of us on this topic. And then we can kind of get into what does it mean in terms of how organizations build it. Patrice, why don't we start with you? When you think of the term purpose in this context, what does it mean for you?
Yeah, well, I define a life purpose as how we leverage our talent, our expertise, and our passion in service of other people and our planet. And that in service piece is what makes it a life purpose and not just your goals and dreams. And I define a business purpose as how a business creates value for all stakeholders, not just shareholders, but all stakeholders, beginning with employees, and how it serves the greater good. So those are the two working definitions that I use. And I know other people have their own definitions.
Yeah. Michael, how about you? Like what's your kind of nuanced look at this?
So my look is pretty similar to what Patrice. I think at its core, a question of applied values, right? So it's about embodiment. And when it comes to organizational purpose, I think that's it's why they exist. That's the classic one that people talk about, but it's also what we want, or what an organization wants to contribute to society in the future.
I think I'm more or less on the same page. I mean, I generally think of impact, like what is the impact you're going to have and on who? And I think if you can clarify, I do a lot of work more on the company side, less on the individual side, but whenever I'm working with a company and we're trying to figure out strategy, I always start with this idea of purpose. What's your North Star? Like this is, in essence, what is the value you're trying to create for some individual or group or kind of category that you can do for 100 years, right? That is not really based on current technology or current market or current political situation. Like it's, what is the thing that you really want to have impact for, 100 plus years? And it's helpful as this kind of guiding star, or this litmus test for everything else that I do. Is this on purpose, right? In terms of it's a test to help drive alignment around things. So I guess I'd also like to kind of get your take on where you think we are, I guess, business-wise, culturally, industry, in terms of being purpose-driven or purpose-led, and why, I guess, is that good? Is that bad? What's your kind of assessment on the world, particularly the business world these days, in terms of being purpose-driven? Patricia, let's start with you again on this one.
This is a very challenging time. And because of that, I actually think if you are self-focused and self-driven by your own life purpose, then you can continue to be productive and positive, even during the most challenging of times, which I think this is one of. If you don't have a life purpose that can focus and drive you to accomplish what matters most to you, then you're at the mercy of everything that happens externally. And I think a purpose is important so that you have that internal drive to do what it is that's most important for you to do, and not be derailed by what's happening externally. And for businesses, I think it's a challenging time for businesses, because they have to deliver for all stakeholders, especially shareholders. And so living your business purpose, operationalizing your business purpose, is more challenging than ever. However, this is a time that businesses do have to, be operating by some business purpose that adds value to all of their stakeholders, even if they have to kind of redefine the way they've previously expressed their commitments in the past. How's that?
No, I like it. Yeah, it's funny. The first image I had, I do a lot of crazy outdoor adventures. I do a lot of offshore fishing and things like that. And one of the things you learn on being on these kind of mid-sized boats is, like, if you're not feeling very good, like, you gotta focus on the horizon. Just get out there and just look at the horizon. And if you can keep yourself focused on the horizon, you can handle all of the kind of turbulence and sea swells and everything. But if you're not looking at the horizon and you're kind of watching the boat or other things, you're going to be like horribly sick. So I think that's the same thing. Like, if you can keep yourself focused on your purpose and, like, ultimately, what are you really here to do, and why is that meaningful, and kind of keep yourself directionally focused on it, you can deal with all the kind of the chaos and the surge and the tumultuous kind of world that we're in right now. You have to manage it, but you kind of keep that level-headedness around things.
Here's the thing, though. While companies may be communicating their business purpose, a lot of times I hear that they just want all of their employees to just get behind the business purpose. They don't care about their employees' individual life purpose, which I think is a mistake, especially now, because the smarter companies would work with their with their employees to help them discover their individual life purpose, and then invite them to align with the business purpose of the organization to create greater engagement to help drive the business forward, right? Because even stronger than a purpose-driven organization is one that's driven by purpose-driven individuals, purpose-driven employees. So I think it's a mistake if companies are only thinking about being purpose-driven for the companies, and employees just line up behind our business.
Toe the line or get out.
Right.
Michael, give us your take on this one.
Yeah, I think Patrice is right. And science actually backs her up. So if you take a look at self-determination theory, what it says is, when you start with, hey, you have to buy into something, you get two sides of the same coin. The perceived upside of that coin is compliance, and often the hidden downside of that coin is defiance. Right. So it might work short term, but typically it doesn't work long term, right? And it manifests itself in various ways. The other thing that I see a lot of companies going through right now when it comes to purpose is redefining what purpose actually means. for some companies, I think purpose means sustainable profits, right? Adding value. So you mentioned value.
Yeah.
So it could mean sustainable profits. For other companies, it's it's pursuing the people and planet side of purpose, right? Those goals with the same level of veracity that they pursue the profits. So I think that's one. I think second, a lot of companies are trying to do the right thing, but it's still early days when it comes to switching from mission to switching to purpose. And so there's a lot of learning going on. It's not a straight line kind of development. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but there's still a lot of learning, a lot of growth, that still needs to happen to really grow into the kind of purpose that I think the three of us really have in mind when we talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to kind of dig into this company purpose versus individual purpose. And I guess a couple of things there. I mean, one is what does it really mean to have alignment between those things? And then is that something you should do pre-hire, right? Should that be something you do as part of the hiring process to make sure that you've got, alignment or at least compatibility between individual and company purpose? Or is that something you do once someone is hired to help them kind of articulate and embrace that and then kind of help align them with the business? I mean, give me your take on how malleable or how, actually integrated these things are and when you do it. And why don't we start with Michael on this one?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I think you don't want to go one or the other. You actually want to do both. Uh-huh. And I think how you do it depends on, is it pre-hire? Is it after hire? But I want to poke at the premise a little bit, that you have to, a lot like leaders or employees have to align their own purpose with the company purpose. Because there's kind of a suggestion in there that, well, you might need to change your purpose to align with your company. I don't think that's right. Okay. So I think the real question is there enough overlap between your individual purpose and your company purpose? It doesn't have to be perfect. And when I talk with leaders, when I talk with companies, there's really 4 different kinds of alignment that we can have. I think there's direct alignment. So, what my purpose is directly aligned with what the company says its purpose is. I think there's instrumental alignment, where your job either funds or enables your purpose somewhere else outside of work, which is totally legit. Mm-hmm. I think there's values alignment. So the purposes might be, on the surface, seem to have very little to do with one another, but the values are very well aligned. And then I think the last one is platform alignment. And Patrice, I've heard you talk about this before, where the organization itself becomes a platform that lets employees or encourages employees to advance their own purpose in their own way.
Yeah. I love that you have these 4 points of, alignment. And I agree with you. I think that every individual has to take responsibility for having clarity about their own individual life purpose, because with that clarity, you can then determine which organizations are best for you to work at. If you don't have that clarity, then you're going to make a decision based on who's paying you more. Is a job available now? Does it match my skill sets and experience? You're going to make it based on other things and not whether it aligns with your purpose. So I think individuals should take responsibility for that. And my big dream is that every 18-year-old has clarity about their life and leadership purpose, because with that clarity, it will inform every decision you make going forward, whether you go to college or trade school. What do you study? What internships do you take? What do you major in? What jobs, careers might you pursue? It's all of those. Clarity about your life purpose will inform every decision you make going forward. And I'd rather people have that clarity at 18 and not 50. Now, 50 is still good if you still haven't.
We're at 50 and we'll work our way down.
Gotten clarity about it, because you could live another 10, 20, 30 or more years. So anytime you discover your life purpose is good. But I think if you're 18, you have a much longer time horizon to actively live your purpose. Now, I think on the company side, the organization side, I think every company should communicate proactively in every way their vision, purpose, mission, and value. So it's right up front. So someone coming to your website can know this is in alignment with me or not. Okay. And if you can't find any point of alignment, then you should go perhaps look for another company that does offer you more alignment. And I agree that an employee, a prospective employee, doesn't need to align in every aspect with what the company has stated as their vision, purpose, mission, and values.
Mhm.
But if there is enough that makes them comfortable to work for that company, and they can find an area that they can really thrive and succeed in, that's great. Again, it doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but there is responsibility for both individuals and organizations to be able to communicate this. And I work with a lot of young people, and I help them to discover and articulate their life purpose so that they can use it as part of their most compelling self-introduction. Because young people, once they get beyond, I'm so-and-so, I'm a senior at so-and-so college, majoring in XYZ, they don't know what else to say. But the perfect addition to that, piece would be, and to know a little bit more about me, my purpose in life is this, in 20 to 30 words. This piece will give other people a lot to engage with. And when they're going for job interviews, I tell them at some point, I want you to communicate your life purpose and actually point out the alignment between your purpose and anything in the company's vision, purpose, mission, or values, to show that you align with their culture and ethos, and that in fact you might be the right fit for their organization. Because if you do that, you would be 1 out of 100 that actually does that, and you would have a strategic advantage if you were able to do that, right? You're a thinking, thoughtful person, and you actually want to work for that company because of this alignment that you have as an individual with the organization.
I mean, it sounds like there's kind of two levels. One is just having a purpose, so just being purposely minded. I guess I'm not sure exactly what the term should be, but that's kind of goal one, right? Like we want to make sure that both the company and the individuals have thought about, have articulated, have clarified their purpose, right? They are purpose clear, and then there's kind of this compatibility, right? Are the actual purposes at least compatible, or at least not conflicting in some significant way, so that we've got an ecosystem that make sure that individuals feel self-actuated and have a directional focus, and the company does as well, and everyone appreciates that. And you can actually then start to work on how do we synergize those things, how do we create a platform for you to be able to activate that stuff. We threw around this term values a little bit. I'd like to kind of understand how you see purpose versus values, or the relationship between them, or how you define them. Give me your take on this, and whether it's important to you or not. I'm just kind of, you're throwing out the term. I'd like to clarify it. Michael, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the same way in companies where mission or purpose, vision, and values all fit together, I actually think that individual purpose is distinct but related to like dreams and goals and things like that, in the sense that dreams are emotion based, right? They pull us forward or drive us forward. Goals are kind of the rational side of the equation, right? They give us the milestones, help us measure if we're making progress toward really, achieving this purpose or living our purpose. But purpose is something that's actually lived, right? This is something that we embody in the way we work, the way we relate to others. So in that sense, it is kind of like an individualized version of corporate purpose, vision, and values. So it's not that you need one and don't need the other. It's really about how do they all fit together.
Yeah. And I love that you use the term embody, because I think that's absolutely right. Because when I think about life purpose, I think about who you are at your essence, what matters most to you, and how you serve others. And that's powerful information for an individual to have clarity about themselves, and for them to be able to share with other people to make themselves more fully known. Because if you really know someone, that's the beginning of a connection, relationship, trust building, all those things. But if somebody's not going to tell you the most important things about themselves, you're kind of being shut out about who they are. And I like the term, I like the term embody in terms of a life purpose, but I use the term operationalize in terms of business purpose, because there are many ways that companies should operationalize their purpose. And I have to say, because purpose, has become a trend, a mega trend, people are slapping that word purpose on everything. Everybody's purpose driven, and every company is purpose driven. And really what they mean when I say a business is purpose driven, it means that they've operationalized their business purpose in every area of their business. Not that they just decided to do something about breast cancer, right? And it's a discrete, not related to the rest of the company initiative. That to me is like purpose washing, and everybody's purpose driven by that definition, right? So,
I think I'm just thinking through when I do work with leadership teams I work with, I think of purpose as the directional focus. Like what is the test that I use to decide, is this initiative, is this policy, is this project, is this client aligned with my purpose? It's a directional kind of check. And the values are kind of a process check. Like, how do we do it? Like, what are the ways in which we execute on that? So I like to see lived values, right? Like, what are the examples that I can point to, in the recent past of us actually living that? Like, it has to be demonstrated. It can't be aspirational. And I think that, like, the more that we can articulate those things, it creates alignment. I have a whole anti-value thing that I do which is about choices.
Well, there is a lot of research on purpose-driven companies, okay? And those companies that actually operationalize purpose in all of their business operations, not just doing one discrete thing. And all the benefits of operationalizing your business purpose are things like creating greater customer loyalty, preserving brand value and reputation, attracting and retaining top talent, and developing innovative new products and services. I mean, there is a lot of research. All you have to do is look for it, and it's there. And again, there's a lot of research on companies that are purpose-driven versus those that are just profit focused, right? In fact, one study that I like is a study of over 15 years, all of the S&P companies. And basically it said that purpose-driven companies experienced 1,681% growth versus only 118% growth for profit-only focused businesses. And again, there's a lot of research like this if you just search for it. So I hope that companies are still not trying to come up with a reason for them to be purpose driven. I mean, that's insane. You aren't even trying if you have to come up with a reason for being
need justification.
There
was a question in the chat, actually, I wanted to kind of bring up and talk about a little bit. So basically the question was, what happens when you see a gap between kind of the stated purpose of the business and then how they're actually operating? And there was an example of the pharmaceutical company that says we're here to cure people, but in reality they drive people to be overworked and burned out internally. Like how do you define, or how do you look at kind of stated purpose, like what's on the website versus what the internal purpose is, and if there's a delta there, what's the issue?
Anytime you state something that this is what we believe, this is our vision, our purpose, our mission, our values, you better make sure that you're living up to your stated uh, whatever you've communicated. And it, if you doubt whether you are, then you should have a town hall and make sure that employees feel that you are living up to the purpose that you are communicating, that they are supposed to be communicating, to their, customers, clients, suppliers, etc.
Yeah.
And, the reason that you even articulate and share these things is it holds the company to some accountability. When I had my first agency and I led a group of colleagues in a management buyback from Chiat Advertising, and we started an employee-owned PR agency that was wholly owned by the 13 of us. We had no money, and I thought, okay, well, we need to explain why we did this, who we are, and what we're trying to do. So I came up with, we didn't call it a business purpose back then because nobody used that terminology, but our business purpose was create great work, a great workplace, great communities that work. And by that, I meant healthy, sustainable communities. Now, our employees held our feet to the fire on these things. It's the reason that we turned down 4 tobacco manufacturers as clients, because there's no way that we could fulfill the third piece of our business purpose, create great communities that work, right?
Yeah.
And 3 times we had to resign our biggest client because, again, they weren't allowing us to live our business purpose. And in an agency, you can't just reassign an account to another team because it's still within your agency.
Yeah.
So it does hold you accountable if you are accountable and actually live your purpose. If you're not going to live it, you might as well not communicate.
Yeah. I want to hear Michael. I think Michael's got some experience here that I want to hear. Tell me a little bit about how you deal with the kind of stated purpose versus what's happening internally.
Well, in order to be able to deal with it, there needs to be some capacity for candid dialogue, right? And I think this example that came up in the chat is a great one because it's right. There's a professed purpose and then the reality, and so companies like Johnson & Johnson have a formal after-action review process. At J&J, they call it the Credo Challenge. So after a decision is made or something similar to that, they'll take a look at whether or not that decision or the way they're operating is actually in line, in J&J's case, with their credo. So being able to take a look at the state of employee well-being and say, hey, to what degrees does this align with our purpose? And having an open dialogue with that, this is the key. And I'll just add one more point if I can, Bruce, which is when you take a look at, as Patrice calls, operationalizing it or living it, I think there's 3 places that you want to look, aside from the hallway and the posters in the hallway. You want to take a look at systems, you want to take a look at processes, and you want to take a look at leader behaviors. Those are the 3 things they're going to predict whether or not you're actually doing a good job of embodying. And when you start to see or sense daylight between those, that's the time when dialogue is really, really important.
Yeah. This has been great. We're going to hit time here. And I want to make sure people have information. Yeah, I know it goes by very quickly. Michael, if people want to find out more about you, the work that you're doing, what's the best way to get that?
Yeah. So contact me through LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/learningpro. You could also find me at People Focus Consulting's website, www.peoplefocusconsulting.com.
Great. And Patrice, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Patrice at joyfulplanet.com or on LinkedIn, Patrice Tanaka, or Instagram or Facebook. And I'd love to hear from anyone who wants to talk life purpose or organizational purpose. I should also say that earlier this year, I started a 501c3 called the Joyful Planet Foundation, and I launched it on January 20th, 2025, because my vision for the Joyful Planet Foundation is diverse, equitable, inclusive, and joyful planet. And my work is working with nonprofit leadership development programs that serve diverse emerging leaders who are committed to creating an equitable, inclusive, and joyful planet. And so I'm doing this work pro bono so I can work with leadership development programs. So if anyone has a great nonprofit organization serving diverse emerging leaders, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about supporting your work. Thank
Excellent.
you.
I'll suggest you put the link to that in the on the LinkedIn page so people can get in to see it in the comments. And people want to get a hold of me. Just bruce@eckfeldt.com is my email address. Eckfeldt.com is my URL. Thank you, both of you, for taking the time today. This has been a great conversation. Thank you for everyone who's listening and all the people that watch the replay. Again, if you have questions or comments, put it in the notes there. We'll continue to watch that. And I really appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.